understand we cannot let this happen.
No, I hear that.
Yes.
Well,
okay, Cheryl, let's introduce our first guest.
Well, more than a half a century ago, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that racial discrimination in public transit was unconstitutional. At the time, Alabama had some of the nation's best metropolitan transit systems, but in the years since, public transit infrastructure has withered there. Mm-hmm. One chief reason for this deterioration is the state's decision several years ago to stop funding public transit. As a result, the state's transit systems are now ineligible for federal matching funds, and subsequently, Alabama leaves millions of needed federal dollars on the table every year. To make matters worse, the Mobile City Council recently voted to cut hundreds of thousands of dollars out of the system's budget, which has led to layoffs, route changes, and service cuts. We know something about that here in Baltimore, right?
Yes.
Well, the people of Mobile, Alabama have had enough, and next week they plan to use the power of the ballot to change their fate. So here to tell us more about what's going on, there is ATU Local 770 President Anthony Maven.
That was Antoine Maven, I think.
Is it Anthony? Do you go by Antoine or Anthony? I'm always confused. Antony. Oh, see, we had it wrong. I'm sorry,
That's
Anthony.
all right.
Okay, well, Tony, welcome to Lunch with Labor.
Yes.
Can we call you Tony?
Yes, that's what I would normally go by.
Okay, great.
Great. Well, Tony, please give our listeners some background on the scope and size of Mobile's public transit system today and tell us who it serves.
But first of all, I want to say good evening to everyone.
Good evening.
I'd like to thank you guys for allowing me to participate on your radio show this evening. First of all, back in 2016, we had a service cut of $700 and some thousand for a transit system, and we lost at least 3 to 4 routes. We also lost some of our paratransit service for our disabled to go to the doctor and things like that. We also lost 15 employees that was laid off due to the service cuts.
Wow. And how big is your system? How many people does it serve?
Approximately about, I would give or take, about 200-some thousand people a week or something like that.
That's a lot of people.
It is. No, well, the WAVE transit system is funded by the city, but it's run by a private company which is not based in Mobile, correct?
Correct. We ran by McDonough Transit out of Fort Worth, Texas.
Okay, well, how has this the system changed since the private operators came on board?
Well, prior to then, we had a transit board that actually voted on different things, the improvement of the transit system, also the amount of money that we received as far as to operate the system. When the private company came about, the city pretty much gave them the go on as far as running the service, and they basically, what they're trying to do is just run it off profit. They're not considering the changes as far as the dynamics of growth of the city or anything like that. They basically want to just keep the city of Mobile happy, because as of now, McDonough Transit has been on a month-to-month contract with the city of Mobile since 2013.
Month to month?
How does that work?
Well, it's my understanding that the city of Mobile does not have anyone to know how to bid the system out. So basically, the transit company is getting paid like $10,000 a month to run the transit system here.
Oh my goodness! Well, yeah, when I learned, and this was a couple of years ago, actually, I learned that Alabama was one of 5 states that don't put money into their into public transit anywhere in the state. I was like, how in the world are they running this? And no wonder they can only go month to month. I mean, it's kind of a frightening situation. Anyway, you and I were talking this morning about my dismay at the routes and maps page of the WAVE public transit system. So I just want to bring up a couple of things on there, because I went on there in preparation for today's conversation, and I was shocked that, you go to that page when you're looking for, okay, which bus can I take and where do I gotta go? The first thing you see there are these 3 bullets. I'm just going to read them. The printed fare information provided within may include outdated information, no longer applied or enforced. So first of all, what I'm seeing on your page may not be true. And then it says the WAVE transit system accepts no responsibility for and excludes all liability in connection with browsing this website. So if you do something here and you get in trouble, that's not unusual. It's just kind of bizarre that they put this up front. And the last thing, it says all content and information on the WAVE Transit System's website may be changed or updated without notice. My question for you, Tony, is I mean, this doesn't really sound like a company that's invested in
Not
good
at all.
customer relations.
Not at all.
If when you go to the page looking for information, they're telling you, and we're not going to be responsible for this, and we're not going to be responsible for that. So how does this feel on the ground? Is that, I mean, am I reading too much into this webpage?
No, you're not. It's basically what it is. They basically don't want to be held liable for anything, including if anything happened to the system as far as if we have a deficit or anything like that, they were allowing the city to fill in the deficit.
Wow, I tell you, well, listen, how is the labor union's relationship with management?
Well, our labor relations is not good. We have tons of grievances. We have tons of arbitration. We cannot get management to actually sit down and agree to pretty much nothing that we have issues with, especially safety issues. Is always a money issue when it comes down to safety.
Well, I want to ask you, we're going to go to a break in a minute, but I want to ask you to talk a little bit about the budget cuts, because you mentioned that like $700,000 came out, and you talked about the route cuts and the service cuts. Talk to us about what this is meaning for the transit users, and how are the transit workers in the city reacting to this? Because we've experienced here in Baltimore, when service cuts go down, the first people to hear about it are the transit workers. People get upset because their bus isn't there, or their bus is not on time, or whatever. And the first people they start screaming at are the people who work for the transit system. So talk a little bit about how these cuts are affecting the people on the ground.
Well, it's affecting people a lot, because just like now, we have buses that used to run to different hospitals. They are actually putting the passengers out 2 and 3 blocks away from the hospital, and these passengers are having to walk on walkers, wheelchairs, and canes in order to make it to the hospital. We just had a semi-cut to where the buses no longer go to the back of the mall. They're actually putting the people at the counter right before you get to the mall, and they have them walk in all type of elements, rain and everything else, and basically across a parking lot. That is a safety issue. One of the other things that we have issues with as far as with that is it also make our bus fleet where we have buses that got over 600,000 miles on. So this service could really hurt.
Wow.
See, and that's why we need to keep it public instead of letting them privatize things here.
Especially if the private operator is nowhere near the town where this is happening. I mean, if you already got customer relations issues, and then the company's not even there, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, well, it look like we have a call on the line. Brother Carlos, welcome to Lunch with Labor.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Appreciate your program. It sounds like Sweet Home Alabama is sweet hell out of Alabama.
I tell
When
you.
it comes to transit, you might be right.
For our people, I really feel for the people down there, and it's everywhere, but the belly of the beast seems to be down there in Alabama. I just want to give you a quick update just to show you how things are going. In the Carroll County, and by the way, congratulations to that black man, Kevin Fraser, the CEO of Merck.
Merck, yes.
Who was sitting by Donald Trump's side and co-signing his policies. He finally got a backbone and got off of that panel there. Kudos to that brother. Give you an update. Carroll County Times, which a lot of people don't get, has and this week, a delegate criticized move to increase minimum wage. And this delegate is a man by the name of Matt Morgan from, this is from St. Mary's County, blasted the minimum wage of $15 an hour, and it has a whole post on it. You might want to go on there. And I just bring this up as it seems like Alabama is ruled by Republicans. Okay, Southern Maryland is pretty much ruled by Republicans, except for a couple of counties. And people seem to put up a moral equivalency between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party on issues that are critical to us blacks. I could go into a whole litany, and I just say, shame on you.
That's
We're
right.
going to pray for you because you're dead wrong as rain. Thank you.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother
And,
Carlos.
and I think Brother Carlos is making reference to the Dem-publicans. You know, they the fake Democrats out here. I think that's what he's making reference to. Okay, well, look, we need to pause here for a short break. And if you'd like to join our conversation after the break, you can give us a call at 410-481-1010 or toll free at 877-704-1010. And we'll be right back. WOLB.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Lunch with Labor. I'm Cheryl Fields here with ATU Local 1300 President David McClure. We're talking about with Anthony. Excuse me, Anthony Mabin. Antony. I'm so sorry. I
just call him Tony.
With Tony Mabin of ATU Local 770 about some of the ways people in this state are fighting, fighting to save public transit. You can join the conversation by calling us at 410-481-1010 or toll free at 877-704-1010. In 2009, a doctoral candidate named Kristen Wells at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte, published her dissertation on whether transit-dependent neighborhoods receive inferior public transit. Mobile was one of the 4 cities that she studied, and she concluded that indeed there is sometimes racial economic bias in access to public transit in Mobile. I wonder if that is still true today, Tony, and if so, how does it show up?
Yes, it is true. Basically, on the service cut that was cut, majority of the service cuts was done in African Americans. Places where the city was more poor. Also, it was done where we had people didn't have any cars or anything like that. So that's basically where the cuts come from.
In places where people have no other option but to use public transit.
Correct.
Wow. Well, look like we have another caller. Winston, welcome to Lunch with Labor.
How you doing? You know, this transit thing is getting on my nerves so bad because the kids haven't even gone back to school yet.
Right.
And the problems that we're having, and with the seniors, I heard the gentleman talk about it earlier. How can we go? I mean, we need to do something immediately. So our kids, they're going to be starting fights, and I hope I'm not off a subject here.
No, it's fine.
We understand.
But you know,
I drive a car. I'm not in it, but I have hundreds of friends that's in it,
right,
and seniors that I know that's in it, and. So, is there any way that it can go back until they can figure out what to do with this system, or are we just stuck with it?
Well, one of the things that ATU Local 1300 is trying to do is they've collected signatures on a petition that is going to Annapolis. This is something that's going to have to be dealt with in the political realm, and I don't think that as long as the people of Baltimore continue to complain about it and let their elected officials know that this is unacceptable, there's hope. And we're going to move on to talking back with Tony Mabin because they're actually doing something about their situation. He's going to talk about that in a minute.
Absolutely, sure. And one thing I will say is that Winston is one of the champions as well. No, he's actually come up and actually received some literature so that he can go around and actually take the petitions around and get signatures for us. So,
excellent. We appreciate that. We appreciate you, Winston.
Yes. All right. And in 2015, your city council voted 5-2 in favor of public transit cuts. Why hasn't the council been more supportive of public transit, Tony?
Well, one of the things that we found out later on was the money that was cut for the transit system was given to the city council in their discretionary fund. They increased the discretionary fund from $25,000 to $70,000 each district, and we have 7 districts. Some of the money went to the Chamber of Commerce. Also, some of the money went to the Civic Center here and different things like that. So the money was used not to fix an issue, but to use to give to other entities that basically not saying that they don't have fair share in making sure that they operation to run, but we also got to think about the people that's actually making the daily city go, riding the bus and going to work and things like that.
Right. Well, I suppose those council members who voted in favor of this are going to have to face the music in a few days because you've got an important election coming up on May 22nd. August 22nd, which tell us a little bit about what's on the ballot, who and what are on the ballot.
Well, we had a prior mayor named Mayor Jones that was actually transit friendly, and the mayor that we have now, Mr. Stanley Simpson, he's not transit friendly. He's also do not have a clue how transportation supposed to run, public transportation supposed to run throughout the city of Mobile. He is a businessman that used to making deals and things like that. But Mayor Jones is a man that had rode the bus as a child, also had family members to ride the bus, and he knows the struggle as far as not having cars or anything like that to get around the city.
Well, so the people are going to be voting for new council members and a new mayor, or just a new mayor?
Yeah, some of the council members' ballot is up. Actually, one of the council that we had named Fred Richardson, he could have stopped the cut, but he voted against the cut. He actually have 3 opponents that's going against him. I'm hoping that the people come out, because we've been pushing the issue to let them know that this is the reason why our service got cut, because if that one vote made a difference.
Wow. Well, how are you getting out the vote, and how can people who might be listening to from your area actually help?
Well, basically, we have had watch debate parties as far as the mayor. We had also did some canvases, walking the streets and notifying the people of the importance of voting. Mm-hmm. We also have been making phone banking calls and things like that to educate our people, to let them know that this is a very important election. And
how has the response from the public been?
The public is very, very more alert this time than last time, because of other things that was cut for homelessness and things like that. That service was cut out. Things dealing with park and recreation, some of those things were cut out as well. So it's not just affecting the transit, it's affecting the poor people overall. Well,
let me ask you this. Is there any other effort to maybe coordinate with some of the other transit systems throughout some of the other ATU locals throughout the state to really look at how to get the state legislature to do something? Because it seems to me that if they would recommit some money to public transit, that would make things a whole lot better for everybody in Mobile and Montgomery and Birmingham and everywhere.
Well, we have a law that's on the Constitution book, 1901, does not allow the state of Alabama to use federal funding, state funding, for public transportation. That funding can only use for transportation for roads and bridges and things like that. It would have to be something that's lobbied and put on a ballot to be voted on. And to have that done, we have right now in the state of Alabama 4 locals, and they are very small, so there's not really many people pushing for to have better transit here in the state of Alabama.
Wow, you talking about back in 19 what?
Yeah, but the Alabama was putting money into transit up until, I don't remember when they fully stopped. I guess maybe it was as far back as that law. Well, anyway.
Wow. But well, Tony, we're going to have to let you go in a few minutes. But is there anything else you'd like to tell our listeners how important it is for transit users to get engaged in the struggle to preserve public transit?
I express this to everyone. This is a real serious issue throughout the United States for public transportation. We need to be more proactive, more alert, and know what our legislators are doing. We also need to make sure that we are putting people in offices as far as mayor, governor, or whomever it may be, as far as political standard. We need to make sure that we hold a hand accountable to the fire on this issue, because it's not going to go away. And the only thing we're doing is we making others that need this system suffer. And it's not good.
Well, and people who need public transit also need jobs.
Right.
And if the public transit system is not allowing them to get to work, then how can we sit and complain about why these people are not working when, we're not figuring out how to help them get there reliably?
Yeah, definitely not.
I mean, I used to live in Southern California, and I grew up there, and where I lived, at the time, it was the RTD, the Rapid Transit Department for LA, and the bus came once an hour. Now, when I was in middle school, I actually was attending a school that was sort of outside of where I was supposed to go. It was a different part of the district, so it was about 5 miles away, and I played a cello. So a couple of times, and I would sometimes have to ride the bus. If my dad couldn't drop me off or pick me up on the way, to and from work, I'd have to take the bus. And I'll tell you what, those days when I'd be waiting, or I'd be running with my cello and watching the bus drive away, and I'm like, no, now I have to sit here for another hour. And in Southern California, it is hot.
Yeah.
So, I'm sitting there with this cello sweating on a bench and praying for the bus to hurry up. So I feel people's pain.
Well, so
anyway,
I will say you and I have something in common. I used to play the cello as well. Yes, I did.
Good people play the cello.
That's right. Okay, well, hey, listen, Tony Mabel, Maben, I'm sorry. We appreciate you coming on today and joining us. But good luck next week, and we look forward to hearing about your success, brother.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. Well, we're going to take another quick break here, but when we return, we'll be joined by Jason Hardeback of the Foundry Makerspace here in Baltimore. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.